Jacobs, I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up until now.
Well, let's see. First, the earth cooled, and then the dinosaurs came, and then they got too big and fat, so they all died, and they turned into oil. And then came episode 310 of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Systems Online. Reflux capacitor fluxing. Scanning Gouda space-time for Airplane 2, the sequel, 1982. Rewinding in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the Paul J. Powers. He's also a co-pilot, Powers.
I have the strangest feeling we've been through this exact same thing before.
Oh, we have. Also, for this discussion of the film Airplane 2, we welcome back aboard Chief Historian of the pod, David Bobo Bobke. Hey, Bobo.
Harbinger of podcasting chaos, reporting for duty, sir.
Yes. All right, yes. And
Power Rangers, let's do it!
Oh my gosh. And in addition, we're glad to have back aboard ship's engineer, Drake Tungsten. Hey, Drake.
Hey, good to be here.
Good to have you here. And Drake, this is actually your 6th time on the podcast. Did you know what that means?
Yeah, buddy.
It's one more than 5.
Yeah.
It is that, and
correct.
one less
Very
than
good.
7.
Yep.
But math aside, that means you're promoted to chief engineer of the pod. Woo! Congratulations. Double the work, but double the pay also. So,
All right.
it's a win-win.
Until you find out how much that pays.
I know how much that pays.
Well, how'd you... 2,000 times 0 is what again? And now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Airplane 2, the sequel?
Sure. The one with the sequel in the title, right?
Oh, gosh, here it comes.
Okay, here we go. A Very Brady sequel came out August 23rd, 1996. It was rated PG-13. Runs an hour and 30 minutes. It was directed by Arlene Sanford, written by Sherwood Schwartz, Harry Elephant, and Deborah Copeland, and with lead stars being Shelley Long, Gary Cole, and Tim Matheson.
And you know what? So something I really liked about the Very Brady sequel is cool seeing Ben Stiller's wife in it. And she's also Lucy from Hey Dude. Did you guys ever watch Hey Dude?
Yeah,
sure.
but I didn't
Christine
realize
Taylor.
she was in it.
Yeah,
I only watched it like when there was nothing else on, and then before I got bored and left.
Mm-hmm. Drake, what did you like about the A Very Brady sequel?
Haven't seen it.
Oh, wait a second. You haven't seen it, but we're supposed to have
Good
watched the
call.
movie before doing this. I wonder if we're doing the wrong movie, Paul.
What? It's the comedy with sequel in the title.
In the title? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The title being Airplane 2. Dos.
That could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
Fine. Go back. These sequels. Okay.
Squeakle?
The squeakle.
Airplane II: the sequel was released December 10th, 1982. You know what's weird going back to the title? Some had a colon and some didn't. I don't know if the official title has a colon in it or not. Anyway, it runs with or without a colon, an hour and 25 minutes long, and is rated PG. It was directed by Ken Finkelman and was also written by him, along with Al Jean and Mike Rice, with lead stars being Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Lloyd Bridges, and William Shatner. I wonder what he's up to. Anyway, the music was composed by Elmer Bernstein. Or is it Bernstein? I have to rewatch Young Frankenstein.
I think it's wherever letter is second is the one that's emphasized. So I think it's Bernstein.
Ah, yes, Bernstein. There you go. Are you ready for the box office trivia?
I am ready. Bobo and Drake, are you guys ready?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
And everyone here in chat, Star Fox, Girl Dad, Dale, you're welcome to join as well. Go for it, Paul.
Okay. Airplane II was made for about $15 million and earned around $25 million at the box office. Given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 1982? I would say go for the top 82, but to help you out, I'll narrow it down to you. It's in the top 50.
Okay. Let's see. Let's start with Drake first. What was your not prediction, but your where would you think this was in the top
27.
50? 27. All right. Bobo, how about you?
Old Gimmicks Die Hard, 42.
42. Okay.
I'm doing the same thing, only different.
For me, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess 49. And in chat, Star Fox guesses money. Apparently, all right. No, he guesses 30. Dale guesses 20, and then Girl Dad thought they only said I had on pirate ships. What? I'm confused. That's not a number, Girl Dad. Okay, but where did it actually end up, Paul?
Well, I thought Drake was going to win it, but Star Fox came in at 30, which is closer to 29, the actual where it came in.
Oh, wow. Okay, so good job, Star Fox. Well done. Well, thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we will get into once Alice has looked at our target film.
Alert. Alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
Taxi, over. Ready for high adventure?
The bombs you feel are asteroids smashing into the hull of the ship. We're also out of coffee.
Ready for terror in outer space?
You're putting everybody else on that ship in jeopardy.
Then make way for Peter Graves, Lloyd Bridges, William Shatner, Robert Hayes, and Julie Haggerty in Airplane 2 next Thursday.
Yes, Airplane 2 next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
But would we have remembered that? I'm not so sure. So maybe our memories, though, came to light in our memory mind meld synopsis for Airplane 2, the sequel. The plot is similar to the first movie, only they're on a space shuttle flight to the moon, and some technical thing goes wrong. Possibly terrorists or saboteurs did something. Meanwhile, William Shatner is involved as some higher up. So the story so far. First, the Earth cooled. Then the dinosaurs came, but they got too big and fat. So they all died and turned into oil. Then the Arabs came, and they bought Mercedes-Benzes. They do end up landing safely on the moon. Okay. Wow. That's, so actually, there wasn't really a terrorist or saboteur so much. There was Sonny Bono with a bomb, but it was more the computer malfunctions.
Bono with a bomb.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So
I thought it was Bono.
I think
guy from U2.
Our memories were deceptive. That's what I have to say about that. But as flawed as those memories were, what did they lead you to predict for this movie before you rewatched it? Or in the case of me, and I'll ask you guys the same question, I watched it for the first time. But let's go around. Drake, you actually picked this movie. Thank you for supporting the show. And so you got to pick this movie for us to do. What rating did you predict for it, though, before your rewatch?
I predicted classic.
Predicted classic. Okay. How about you, Bobo?
This was a first time viewing for me.
Okay.
And I was scared to death of it. So I predicted tragic.
Tragic. All right. Paul.
Like Bobo, this was my first time, and I haven't heard it really quoted from anybody. Whenever people talk about the airplane movies, it's usually the first one almost exclusively. Mm-hmm. So because I hadn't heard anything, I predicted tragic.
All right. And I will make that a three-peat. I have not seen it either. This was my first time, and I had never... I honestly didn't know there was a sequel for quite some time. This wasn't the first time I'd heard of a sequel, but I'm like, oh, they made another one? So I had no real interest, though. I mean, the first one, I forget what I rated it, but it only, I think, if I rated it classic, it was only just barely. So I predicted a tragic for this time. But we'll have to see if those predictions came true. We'll first, though, get into the things we liked about Airplane 2. So Alice, get that started for us.
Best bits.
And also, Alice, don't go haywire like this rock computer guy. But let's begin with Drake. What's one thing you liked about Airplane 2?
One thing I liked about it. I liked it was a sci-fi spoof.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I've always liked sci-fi, so I got a kick out of all the science fiction references and, stuff, and things like that. That was probably one of the things I really liked about it.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah, it's one of the things that differentiated it from the first one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Bobo, were the sci-fi elements something that really stood out to you as something you liked, or something else?
Yeah, I kind of like that they went to that next level of going into space for the sequel there, but not on my list here.
Mm-hmm.
My first like actually starts pretty early on when we're just getting into the credits. I was very happy to see that Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty were back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because I thought if you're doing a sequel, you could go a totally separate thing and just start and do your own thing.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna try to connect this with the first one at all, like, man, getting those two back was pretty crucial, and I really liked them in the first movie, so I was delighted to see them here, and
absolutely
could not agree more.
So that bumped things up a little bit from my tragic prediction to start things off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, on the topic of casting, something that made my like list was it was neat for me to see a young Rip Torn. I like him in more of the old, his like Men in Black, Dodgeball, like the things from like the more like 2000s and on. So it was cool seeing him in this younger role with like, I didn't know he's a redhead, and I don't know if this is real hair or not, but if it is, then oh wow, had no idea. So that's one of my likes.
Yeah, that was another one of my likes. It didn't quite make my list, but it was several cameos that I was not expecting, like Perry Mason as the judge. And
okay. I was like, I recognized him, but I wasn't sure what it was. So he was Perry Mason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, that's not Matlock. Who is that? Okay.
It's the guy from Godzilla.
Yeah.
He's in Godzilla?
Yeah. The American one, versions.
But American that's not the one we covered, right, Paul? We covered the
It is, if you watch the American version.
I didn't. We watched the Japanese version for the podcast.
Technically, we didn't cover it if you didn't watch the American version of Gojira, the first one.
Okay,
whichever version it was, did you watch it at 1x speed or 2x?
How dare you, Bobo?
And he also makes a comeback in Godzilla 1985.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
cool.
Yeah. All right. Well,
anyway,
Godzilla
one of my likes.
Yes. Yeah.
Is just like the visual of Godzilla, I really enjoyed the visual gags throughout the film. There were so many. But for example, like when we first see William Shatner, he's on this what appears to be like a TV view screen, and it just turns out he was behind a door that was a filtered window. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a cool gag. But
I love that one.
I'm sorry, I thought you said your first like was the cameos.
No, I said that was one of my likes, but didn't make my like list.
Okay.
If I didn't say that, I meant to say that.
Okay, gotcha. I'm like, okay, apparently Paul just wants to take away the
All right, so my second like, no, I'll say that.
Yes, and I thank you, Dale. Yes, Rip Torn was in Beastmaster. That's true. And I'm glad you liked Airplane 1, Girl Dad. Let's go back to Drake. Something you liked about Airplane 2.
Sequel.
Well, I was gonna say I like the cameos as well.
Oh, okay. Nice. Did you have a favorite?
My favorite's William Shatner, of course.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He did a great job at the
especially
end.
The part with the blinking and beeping.
Yes.
I mean, I loved it because I think I kind of just knew who he was when I first saw this, and it was just the funniest thing ever because I'm like, oh, he's talking about when he was on that other show, and yeah.
That's fun.
Because it's just there's a lot of blinking and beeping if you watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like maybe you guys know. I know Drew would know if he is here because he's a big Star Trek fan. But there's like a term for those type of lights, like it's a DN, GN, like do nothing, go nowhere.
DN for the pipes, actually.
Okay. But it's like
goes nowhere, does nothing.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's the pipes.
Oh, I thought it was the lights.
No, why would lights go somewhere?
Because it looks like they move. Because they.
Oh, okay.
They go in sequence.
Yeah, it's. I think
it's kind of like this conversation. It's going nowhere.
Wow. Well, let's get back onto somewhere with Bobo's next like. What was it for you, Bobo?
I had an abnormal like about 15 minutes in when the kid is going to see his grandma, and he knocks the other old lady out of the way, and she takes that huge bump off the wall. I was impressed, man. I've been watching pro wrestling a long time, and she was bumping.
I suspected that was not a real grandma. That was like a stunt double or something.
Well, how do you know she doesn't have grandkids? If that is
no, I don't know.
Stunt grandma.
All right.
Whatever the case, I was impressed.
Yes.
Regardless, it was impressive.
Yeah, I enjoyed the slapstick Bugs Bunny Tex Avery humor as well.
Was that your second like, Paul?
No, but what as my second like is the literal humor, and as my brain tends to be more literal focused than others, I really enjoyed the humor that went along with it. Like, for example, like the information desk with a long line of people just asking general information. Or
oh, here it is. Elaine Dickinson. She's a ship's computer officer. Jacobs, what have you got on Elaine Dickinson?
Well, I'm 2 inches taller, a better dancer, and much more fun to be with.
So a lot of those, there were a lot of setups of that kind of humor. Like,
Doctor, can you give the court your impression of Mr. Stryker? I'm sorry, I don't do impressions. My training is in psychiatry.
So it would be great to have those responses so quick in real life.
It's so weird because that actor who played the psychiatrist doctor sounds so similar to Leslie Nielsen. It's weird.
If you close your eyes, I can see that. You can hear that. Yeah.
But speaking of that doctor and the mental hospital, I actually really liked the background gags, a lot of them that you see in that hospital. That was my next like, especially the nurse checking the oil on the guy.
Yes.
I thought that was really funny.
That was great.
I also like that same nurse was wearing an I Love Sanity shirt. I thought that was fun.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the stuff like that, I like those background things that you may not notice if you're not looking, though I think they're there for you to see them because the exposition that's going on otherwise is kind of just inane.
Did you notice the stickers on the suitcase?
I saw Nagasaki. They're all like bombs essentially that were
Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Dresden, and Pearl Harbor.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So
all bomb references. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So that was my next like. I think Paul. Did you give us your second like?
I've given you 4 different ones. If you're depending on how you're counting, all I have left is my classic maker.
Yeah. So let's get to our classic makers, and Paul, let's have you start us off with them.
My favorite part or gag of this film was the Macho Grande story, and how the introverting words of Howie, Andy, and Buddy. The wordplay there, like. It's a lot like the Who's Line or not Who's Line, but Who's on First kind of a.
Yeah.
I thought it was great wordplay there,
and that wordplay came out of the scene, I believe, if I'm remembering right. The whole sequence that was my classic maker was the whole courtroom case scene. I thought had lots of interest, had the most interesting gags of the movie, for reasons I'll say here a little bit later. But I liked that. At the beginning, the one of the lawyers is like walking along the bench of the jurors, and the jurors just keep going and going and going. And he's walking through snow, then water, like the Foley is so different. So I thought that was hilarious. And then when it gets to the end, apparently the juror box is just this conveyor. I thought that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The back and forth with the witnesses. I thought so much.
Flashback of a flashback.
Yeah. There was that.
Flashback within a flashback.
Because the court scene was a flashback, and then within that, you had the one gal from Airplane 1 who got slapped and hit so many times. She was flashbacking. So that was fun. So
I didn't notice that till you just said that. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Mm-hmm.
So that was my classic maker for Airplane 2, which ironically had nothing. Not ironically had nothing to do with the airplane. I don't know if that's irony there or not, but
because it was in the courtroom, not in the airplane. Okay.
Baba, what is your classic maker for Airplane 2?
Well, I too made a note of the Shatner behind the door when we thought he was on a screen.
Yes.
I particularly like that. But after that, when he has the longer scene where they're saying, these red lights keep moving back and forth, and over here we've got these lights that are blinking out of sequence. It felt very much like a scene that would have been out of a Star Trek episode or something if it was very, 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 very silly instead of just very silly like Star Trek was. But I that particular scene was really capturing and holding my attention, and I was quite enjoying and could have watched a whole movie of more of just that kind of thing. But I like Star Trek too, so
Yeah, no, I feel like that was. Whenever William Shatner was on the screen, I was a lot more captivated in the movie. So yeah.
He was very fun in this movie.
Then that leaves Drake. What was your favorite thing about this? At least this viewing of Airplane 2.
Well, I really like the joke where he explains everything that happened, from the beginning. I'm not going to say that again because we've already said it multiple times.
The Jacobs who says, and then the dinosaurs came and that whole thing.
That whole thing, especially because in some ways these two movies are fused in my mind as one movie because when you first invited me, I think it was the first show I did actually. We did Airplane.
Oh wow!
The first time I was on, I think it was Airplane.
I'm going to double check your math there, but continue.
And which is why I picked this one.
Yeah.
But my dad mentioned that line when I said, "Oh, I'm going to review Airplane on your show," and I was like, "Well, that's actually Airplane 2," So we both kind of have those fused in our, a lot of the jokes since it's they're very similar.
And you are correct, by the way. Airplane, the first Airplane was your first time on the podcast back in 2021.
Jeez. Wow. I remembered it because you had me do the line at the beginning, and I was nervous, and I was trying to sound like Lloyd Bridges, and I think I sounded a little too much like Ronald Reagan instead.
That's fine.
Which again is the second movie, not the first.
Yes. That's funny though. But okay.
Yeah.
Wait, geez, I totally.
So my classic maker was that line, that whole bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
I watched the movie twice, and I memorized that line.
Gotcha. I almost feel like that you were the one who put that in their memory mind meld.
Possibly, I don't know.
Considering he's the only one that had memories of it.
Suspicious.
This was our first watch.
Oh my. Well, so those were the things we liked about Airplane, but there's probably things we didn't like so much. So let's probably get. Oh, you know what, guys? There's one more thing I liked that I really have to get off my chest. It's important to me that you guys hear about Geek Devotions. Geek Devotions is a collaboration of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. They produce a weekly geek culture infused devotional. Their podcast Calm Talk, and written articles, all designed to encourage and challenge people in the geek community, bridging the gap between their faith and their geekdoms. Find all their content at geekdevotions.com.
That's great, Francisco. But I'm struggling to make the connection. How Geek Devotions, Airplane 2, the sequel. I don't remember them being in the movie.
No, did I say I was making a connection? I just said that there's something else I liked.
One thing you liked about the movie.
I didn't say anything about the movie. It's something else I liked that I wanted to tell you guys.
You know what? You got me on technicality there.
Yeah.
Score 1 for Francisco.
Checks out for me.
Time. 300 episodes later, you finally get a point.
Gosh.
Captain's getting craftier.
I have to avoid all the bite me's. Anyway, but how about some trivia about Airplane 2? Would you guys like that?
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
Glad you're so enthused, Baba.
I have some.
Well, let's start with mine, and then if you have more,
go with yours.
did you all realize at one point William Shatner looks into a periscope and sees the USS Enterprise from Star Trek 1966? I imagine you all realize that since you watched the movie. But
yes.
Did you know that this is the only time the original television version of the Enterprise appeared on the big screen? For the theatrical movies, it had been heavily modified. So with that in mind, what old TV show, let's say pre-80s, do you wish got plussed up into a movie version? And if you can only think of a movie that already got a TV show that already got a movie version, tell us something that they could have done better with it. So let's start with Paul.
I was going to say, well, the Batman 1966. Oh, wait, they did make a movie of that. I would have enjoyed another movie of that, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would, if I had anything to do differently, I would have, had a sequel. But I know their popularity was shortly running dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Baba?
I was mostly thinking of shows from the 80s, of course, but one that I came up with was the Dick Van Dyke Show. They could have made the Dick Van Dyke movie.
Yeah.
And he's always charming, and everybody else in that show was great, so
you know what's
that would have been
weird?
pretty good.
Is that I really love the Dick Van Dyke Show. I think it still holds up to today. And I actually thought about that. And then I thought, but what kind of movie would they do? Like, what kind of plot would make an interesting movie? I don't know.
Them going on vacation somewhere?
Yeah, they go to Paris or something.
They have to write a movie instead of a TV show.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, because they're a TV. They write
Writers,
TV shows on the show, right? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun. Okay. And how about you, Drake?
I had a lot of trouble because everything I thought of was like 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought you guys
or maybe
wouldn't
be
good with the
great.
challenge. So
or maybe wouldn't be necessarily great as a movie because I was like, well, maybe like Happy Days. No, that would make a good movie,
Yeah, a TV movie, but not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, jumping the shark, right?
Right.
So the only thing I thought of really was, with your suggestion, was the Lost in Space. Now, they did make a movie of that,
right?
But it wasn't that great.
Or was it? Well, maybe we'll find out soon.
Yes.
Yeah,
maybe.
But I remember seeing it and enjoying it, but I was a little disappointed. And my wife actually really likes the old Lost in Space as well. So,
cool.
We both discussed that, and yeah, she didn't. She just thought it was dumb, like flying into the sun was like stupid,
Fair.
and or whatever it was they did, and I think that's what happened. And yeah, I don't know. There was just something lacking in it. I can't even describe what it was, other than like the not the camp so much, but there's a real heart, a real hominess to the original series. The family unit kind of thing. The unity of the family coming together and all that. I think really just wasn't there and that's what did it for me. And of course, there was that one cameo, I think, for what's his name that played Bill Mooney, but he wasn't in it. I mean, Bill Mooney that played.
I was about to say Bill Mooney is the name of the actor.
Yeah, Bill Mooney. I think they made a role for him, but
he wound up not playing it
in the movie, or it looked like
Will Robinson's grandfather or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't want to give too much spoilery of the movie since you're going to review it.
Fair, okay.
Yeah. I was about to say what episode is this? Did my rewind button? Did I forward too fast? What movie are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about Kung Fu, which is the movie that Dale Dale would like to see a good movie of.
Oh, yeah.
Lost in Translation, starring Bill Murray. Oh.
Actually, Francisco, I thought you were going to go. One of my favorite shows to watch on reruns as a kid was Rifleman. And I thought your trivia... You had told us the trivia question ahead of time so we could think about it. And I thought the trivia had something to do with the Rifleman, like being in the movie, and this was one of his movies.
Oh, I had never heard of Rifleman.
Yeah. Oh, Rifleman would have been good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Is that Western?
I was thinking of something like that.
You've never... Oh, okay, Francisco. What would have you picked for pre-80s?
So I didn't like the show so much, but I think it would have made a fun movie is Thunderbirds Are Go. I think that would have been cool if they like made an actual like...
Is that like Team America?
Yeah, it is like Team
Sort
America.
of, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That guy did make a movie or two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought they did make a movie. Anyway, it's great trivia.
Well, it wasn't like that. It was a completely different movie, but it was the same guy.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Jerry Anderson.
But
yeah,
it's
funny you mentioned that too, because I was actually thinking of a show called Terrahawks. But I looked it up, and that was from the 80s.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's several from the 80s I would have loved to see. Yeah. But hey, give it 10 more years. We might see it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I'll ask the same trivia question with Airplane 3. How about that, guys?
Yeah. That's one thing I'm disappointed in, is that there wasn't an Airplane 3 as was teased at the end credits.
Oh, I guess I didn't notice that. Was it at the very end?
Yeah, after the credits.
Oh, okay, okay. But you had said great trivia, Francisco?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So now that we've all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our rad rewinders, had about Airplane 2, the sequel.
Let's do it. Wardell White says The Rifleman and probably things a good boy like me shouldn't remember. Fair.
Dave Mattingly says the voice-activated doors. Shh.
Yes.
And I'll never get over Macho Grande. We don't have a bridge, sir, only a tower.
Though I think it's reverse. I think it's... Yeah. Kevin Joshua Burnham says, I remembered it being PG. Nothing offensive or repetitive to be made here. Okay.
Right. Jeremy Shields says, was this the one where some keep repeating Stryker until a woman gets punched? I remember Shatner giving landing instructions that seemed more like guidance for kissing the love interest as the shuttle had already landed.
Yes.
I forget if he did that part, but yeah, he was giving instructions.
Yeah, it was right. Yeah, it was right at the end. He's like, hold her.
Oh. Who Will Save Generation X podcast says, all the scenes with William Shatner were great. Ted Stryker? Never heard of him. No, that's not actually true. We were like brothers. This is a worthy sequel to all and time 80s comedy.
I think classic. He meant an all-time 80s comedy.
Okay. I guess I'm sorry.
And Josh Powers, my brother, says some gags in this movie are great. They're just stuck in a not great movie.
Ooh, interesting. All right. Well, maybe there's some reasons it isn't so great, or people would call it a not so great movie. And let's get into those reasons. Alice?
Worst woes.
Yes. What are our worst woes for Airplane 2? And I will start off. This is pretty low fruit, but I guess it depends on your sensibilities. So I just thought there's too much just nudity at the beginning, especially. I mean, mainly female chest nudity is what I'm talking about. What was that?
You said there's nudity at the beginning, and I said, and not enough at the end.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, come on, let's balance this out. No, I felt like it didn't add enough. It didn't really add much comedy to me. It wasn't funny, so call me a prude, whatever. But I was just like, okay, great,
fair.
So that was something I didn't care for. Let's go to Drake next. What's something you didn't like about Airplane 2?
The thing that I liked. Well, I kind of like the least about it, but it's not my tragic maker, is they kind of redid the first story.
They basically they have the strange feeling they've been through this exact same thing before.
Exactly. I mean, I don't mean the whole, like, there's a problem on the airplane, all that, but they had him in the same situation where he, was in the mental institution and all that, so... It was like, all right, we've already seen this. Come on,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. The plot's not supposed to be that deep because it's a comedy, but.
Yeah. And that's essentially my next too. So I'll just get that out of the way, is too many recycled jokes. And it wasn't, I think you can play. I imagine the people that were making this because it wasn't the original filmmakers that made Airplane 2. They actually famously, apparently on their commentary said 4 years later, they have never seen a frame of this because they just don't want to have anything to do with it at all. So it's, but the new people, I assume, were fans of the original, and this would probably came out. I forget exactly what the distance between the two movies are, but I gotta think there's lots of people that are fans of the original that have maybe seen it multiple times. So I guess video VHS and stuff wasn't as big of a thing when this came out, but it just seems like too much of it was just the same joke instead of like, we're going to set this joke up the same way, but then we're going to change it on you. Like, I think it would have been more clever if I know the main pilot dude is enjoys the company of boys, we'll say. I think it would have been interesting if there was I don't know, something that maybe something else came on and said, "Hey, Captain, do you like hanging out in a something prison?" I don't know. It just like changing it on you a little bit so that it's like, oh, you're getting the reverse. I don't know. I'm not a comedy writer, as you could probably tell, but I'm just saying it was too recycled for me. So that is mine. Let's give Baba and Paul a chance. Now that I've gone through two of mine. Baba, what's something you didn't care for about this movie?
I'm here.
Yes, you are here.
So yeah, I had a few problems with the movie. One was there were some jokes that I thought were not strung out enough. One in particular that got me real early was the two people in the airport passing each other with their rolling luggage, and the luggage starts barking at each other. And I thought that's a promising idea, and then it didn't, I think, go far enough where
I thought it went too long.
Yeah. Well, it did. I think I actually agree with there, but I thought if it went from that to like shots of the owners trying to restrain the luggage like it did, and then cut back to like the luggage sniffing each other, and then cut back to the owner saying, "Oh, sorry, they're very friendly normally," and then like one luggage is trying to hump the other one, and that's where you end the bit. Rule of threes.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that would have worked better than just kind of the one thing where they're sniffing each other and then let's just have them do that for 5 minutes or whatever it was.
Right.
Another one in the hospital where the nurse is trying to pull the bedpan away from the patient.
Yeah.
I was expecting that there was going to be something in the bedpan that would
I'm glad there wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there. But I feel like if this were, the Zuckers, there would have been something absolutely in the bedpan. There would have been a lot of noise after she got it away.
Yeah.
There would have been more to the joke there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was one thing that was missing in a few spots for me.
Yeah. I will say, I think it would have been interesting as sort of like a continuation or merging of jokes. If you do like what you said with the luggage that pretend to be pets, but then you go back to that, one guy that's like, saying you can't have dogs on the airplane and shoots the dog with a blank, but does that to the luggage and actually explodes the luggage. Like you can't have luggage on the plane. You can have dogs, but not luggage. I think that would have been interesting. But
that could work.
Let's go to Paul. What's something you didn't like about this film?
Now watching this with 2024 eyes.
You have 2024 eyes. What are you, an angel?
You have impeccable vision.
Well, thank you. But watching it nowadays, some of the jokes don't land like they used to. And I hate to be one of these like cancel culture kind of people where it's like, no, it's a different time back then. You don't understand comedy and all this stuff. But I just found it strange that there were not just one but several like anti-women jokes. Like I was like, where is this coming from? It's so what would be an example of an anti-woman joke? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, I didn't even write it down. Now I wish I had. Then I could be framed. But there were at least three that I remember where it popped up, and I'm like, again with. It's I know one of them. It was at the beginning with the main girl and her new boyfriend. He's like, now that you've been so successful, you can stay home and have babies. And she's like, what? He's like, I'm glad women have come so far in this day and age where you can do that kind of a thing. And instead of, so it was mocking being a career woman versus a stay-at-home mom, and kind of like jokingly mock degrading women that way.
Okay.
Which I didn't think was necessary or
fair.
funny.
I mean, I just felt like that guy was a jerk and not.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, that's fine if that's the only one, but there were a couple others later on. And
but doesn't that speak to her character for being with him?
I mean, it says a lot of things.
I would like to hear a lot more things from Drake. What's something else you didn't like?
Well, maybe it's a little bit of reusing my previous one, but I didn't like how they reused a lot of jokes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, again, I can totally agree with you there because I felt the same way about it.
They were like the same jokes. I think that's why the two movies are kind of fused in my mind. Or
absolutely, yes.
Because it's,
I know the director and the writer, it was the same guy, and someone said there's several of the same jokes, and he said, "Well, surely you must be joking." And he's like,
"You mean from
don't put that in there."
No, I'm serious.
I don't think.
Never mind. It was set up wrong. I'm not a comedy writer either. Can't you tell?
No, I'm serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All right, let's go back to Paul. Though you may not be a comedy writer, but give us. What did you write down for another one of your dislikes?
I wrote down, priest looks at Altar Boy magazine, turns it sideways. I mean,
there were a couple of those.
There were a moment with the priest, and I'm like, if it was so quote unquote prevalent back then, like, why did it become such a big scandal later?
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
Now, granted, I was a toddler when this movie came out, so it was a
thing back then. I kind of remember it.
Right. So then, why was it such a big scandal later? And then why is it being addressed later?
You mean it's okay later? I don't.
No, like the whole what was that movie, Spotlight and such?
Like, why did it seem, if it was so prevalent, why wasn't it dealt with back then? I think is what Paul's saying.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of things like that.
I don't know about that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Well, you may agree with Paul, but Baba, what didn't you agree with being in this movie?
They had that flash. I think it was the flashback in the flashback where they're going through that scene where that woman's being, told like, get a hold of yourself, and she's getting slapped over and over, which was funny. Not that people should hit each other in general.
Yeah.
But they did that. They did the showed that from the first movie, and then they basically did the same exact gag immediately after.
Yeah.
So it's not just repeating a joke, but you repeated it right after the superior version of the same joke.
They literally used the same bit.
It's a sequel. It's continuing it.
So I think it would have been funny if it were the exact same people that had just been in her flashback coming back through the line. I think that would have been good. That would have been particularly funny. Like, wait, that
would have made it worth
it. You're here again?
Yeah.
I know
maybe that's not how they originally wrote it, but those people they didn't make it.
Yeah, that could be.
Maybe, yeah.
Where did they leave off in the line, ma'am? Right here? Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I could buy that.
Let's see. So, wait, Bob, that was yours, right?
That was my second
one. All right, let's get into Tragic Makers, guys. And I'll start with mine. I mean, you guys sort of, I think Paul even spoke to this, but I felt like a lot of these jokes only land, see, because it's an airplane. If you were an adult in the 70s and 80s, I think a lot more of these jokes you would get the sort of, especially the background comedy element. What was that, Paul?
I said like the Reagan reference. You wouldn't know what you may have known what Reagan was as a kid, but you may have not known like the controversy, but with him and stuff.
I know he had Alzheimer's, right?
Well, this was afterward. That was afterwards.
This was 82.
See, I'm not even aware of the controversy then.
Yeah, you're just proving your point.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm glad I'm proving my point.
Well, they mentioned when he fired all the air traffic controllers.
Right.
He did?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And I'm sure there's plenty of comedies that come out these days, or even from our beloved 80s and 90s that have the same problem. And I get that. I don't. Sure. I'm not saying that it's specific to this movie, but I think there's it being a comedy, and I feel like it really pushes hard into the zeitgeist of that time. That it's just not gonna have a longevity that other comedies might have. Like the first one, the first one still holds up, I believe, just because so much of it is just the type of things that happen at airports and still kind of do to this day. It's not this like super specific, this president and
like the terrorists hijacking planes and people and stuff.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I know that happened a little bit in this one, but so that type of stuff did land, but I think a lot of it just doesn't. So that's my tragic maker. Drake, what did you dislike most about this?
My tragic maker is actually a very strange one.
Oh, okay.
The part where he went to jelly.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I wasn't sure why he became jelly.
Well, it was he turned to jelly. Like that just means he didn't have any backbone. Like he was any and then they're making the joke where he turned to literal jelly.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I saw this movie. It was. I don't know how new it was. It was sometime in the 80s, and I was pretty young, and that scared the crap out of me.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes. It doesn't now. But I never see that as funny because it scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah, I could see that.
So it literally was kind of tragic in my case when I saw it.
Yeah.
You're still traumatized.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was traumatized when I saw it, but because I was like, what happened? Oh my God. Because I was a kid, I kind of took it seriously. I didn't realize it was comedy.
Mm-hmm. I totally get that.
And I don't remember when I saw it. It wasn't right when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But so I would have been like 10-ish maybe when it came out or when I saw it. But yeah, so it's a little bit of a strange one, but that's my tragic maker.
Wow. Okay. Crazy.
Yeah.
Let's go to Bobo. What traumatized you from this film?
So we've been kind of hitting on it multiple times here already as far as repeating jokes and whatnot, but I got this feeling like this, not that so much that this is just another movie, this is a sequel. This felt like fan fiction, and that's where it should have stayed. Because it's taking the idea of the first Airplane movie, and it does something a little different with it, but repeats so many of the same jokes, and there's not enough of a change, a twist, or whatever to them.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when I wrote my own South Park script years ago.
Oh, really?
And I just kept kind of reusing jokes that had been used on the show before, and there could be so much more originality to it. And to its credit, there are in some spots. I still think there were some jokes that worked when they bring back the line of what's a whatever, and it's like, it's this kind of a thing, but that's not important right now.
Yeah, they do. Right. That's a little different. That is fun. Yes.
Yeah, it was good because it was a recurring joke in the first one already. So
yeah, and I thought that worked a couple of times. There was one case I thought where it didn't work quite as well, but there was I didn't write down the context, but Haggerty's character has a joke about she said, "I'm excited about something," and they say, "Oh, it's your first time?" She says, "Oh no, I've been excited before."
Right.
That popped me a little bit. Yeah. So there was some stuff that worked there, and I wish they had been able to pull more of that out.
Yeah.
And absolutely. Like I said, it felt just a little bit too unpolished, I guess, and a little bit too like, I want to make my own movie now.
Yeah.
And it's not professional enough, which is weird to say for a movie that's like this, but
no, I totally get that. I totally get that.
Almost like an Airplane 1.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the direct-to-video Airplane sequel. All right, well then that leaves Paul. What What should have just crash landed or crash and burned about this movie?
Well, for my
tragic maker,
I know humor is subjective and it's different for everybody, so it's hard to critique it in a way. But the general sense that I get is that this movie is just not as funny as the first, and it's hard not to compare it to it.
Yeah.
And basically, you've all said that we've all said this in different ways. And to me, it's the worst thing about this movie. It's kind of like, to me, this even has like less humor than the first one. Like when the movie first is starting, they're at the airport and you hear like the overhead speaker. So I was trying to listen. Oh, what are they saying? Is it something funny? Are they gonna? I think someone mentioned it before. There's not as many layered jokes throughout the scene as there were in the first one. I think the number of jokes, even the number of them, aren't there. And I think this movie is sorely lacking, especially when compared to the first one.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with you there. But now that we've entered all our trajectories into the firing computer, Alice, do you have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo armed and ready to fire on your mark.
Rating salvo on the what? And ready for your mark.
Ready to fire on your mark. So, do I need to play it again? I don't remember exactly.
No, you don't need to, exercise your salvo authority.
Oh my gosh. And no, there's no Tom Salvo authority, Bobo. All right, guys, it's time for the moment of truth. Do we rate Airplane 2 a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see it, whether or not they've seen it before. A tragic, like, I forgot to include Dale's Tragic Maker. He says R-rated content and a film rated PG. Yeah, though that's sort of part and parcel for the early 80s. Anyway.
Yeah. Check out Jaws.
Yeah, exactly. So classic, it's worth anyone going and seeing. A nostalgic, do we rate nostalgic? It's worth watching again if you enjoyed it whenever you watched it last. But if you've never seen it before, pass this one on by. Or do we rate it a tragic? It's not worth anyone's time. If you've never seen it before, keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't sully any good memories you have of it with a rewatch. So we'll start with our guests. Drake, you picked this movie for us to watch. Yeah. You had predicted classic. Where did it actually end up for you?
I predicted classic, and I was thinking about this through the whole podcast that we're going through, and trying to decide what I really thought of it. And I'm going to go with nostalgic.
Nostalgic, okay.
Yeah.
So tick down just a little bit, but all right.
Yeah, it's just it was good. I still enjoyed it. I would still watch it again. You don't need to watch it, but it probably won't kill you, but you don't need to watch it. The first one's better.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So nostalgic for Drake. Bobo, you had predicted tragic. Where did it end up
Bobo,
for you?
Is that the Airplane 2 sequel DVD behind you on your shelf?
No, that's the first one. I don't have the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been kind of kicking my decision around on what I was going to actually give this movie, because I came in with one and then I was sort of changing it during the show, and I was kind of debating. And it had to be either a low nostalgic or a high tragic.
Okay.
There is stuff in this movie that works okay for me, and I kind of liked the Shatner scene was my classic maker. I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But there's also so much of this that I just can't, just didn't work for me. I almost went into Francisco mode at one point when I got several like little down arrows.
Oh my gosh.
Salvo authority.
Yeah, I got like little echo gag. I don't even remember what that is, but I got a little down arrow by that one.
I remember the echo gag.
That joke. So I'm gonna go with what I came in with. I'm gonna say it's a tragic.
Tragic. Oh man. Okay.
I can't really recommend anybody see it. But I kind of do feel like if you saw it within the last few years and you remember liking it and you want to go back to it, you'll probably still like it. I'm a little iffier.
So then that's a nostalgic. So now I'm very confused.
No, that's the thing is if you haven't seen it in like 20 years and you remember liking it, I'm not that sure you're going to like it now.
Okay. Interesting.
I see.
So so I'm very on the fence about this one. It was better than I was expecting.
Okay,
I can say that. But I think I gave the first Airplane I rated a classic.
Mm-hmm.
When I was here talking about The Naked Gun, I only gave that a nostalgic.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, I can't put them on the same level.
Yeah,
I like Naked Gun, but I can't put this movie on the same level as that one. So it is a high tragic for me.
Okay, there is such a thing, but all right. Our reflux capacitors, which for supporting the podcast, we ask you guys, you get to vote on these movies as well and be part of the final rating. And you collectively rated Airplane 2 a classic.
All right.
So, okay. Let's now go to me and Paul. Paul, you had predicted tragic. Where did it end up for you?
Tragic, yeah.
I heard tragic. Okay. I'll put
much
that down.
like the movie Judge Dredd, I thought I was going to regret me purchasing this for $5, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to rate it nostalgic because I think if you enjoyed it before, you'll enjoy it again.
Oh.
It's not a classic, and I would probably 100 times out of 100 watch the first movie before watching the sequel if I had to choose.
Yeah.
So for me, it's going to be nostalgic.
Okay. For me, I mean, I think it's got to be a classic, guys. I mean, the whole like when you get Leslie Nielsen saying, you know what, don't call me Shirley. It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, classic for me.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Hey, no, Paul,
yes, on the Retro Rewind podcast, I'm the captain now.
Oh my gosh. I was expecting you, Paul, to be like, Francisco, we're covering Airplane 2. And so it's a reverse bit from the whole thing. And I'm like, I watched the wrong movie. And then you go with the rewind sound. Exactly. Oh, Airplane 2. Oh, that's a tragic.
Yes. I'm glad you cleared that up.
So we got quite the swath here now, guys. We have 2 nostalgics, 2 tragics, and 1 classic. So average, I think, essentially one of the classics, the classic and nostalgic, 2 of those get knocked out. So that leaves 2 nostalgics to the 1 tragic. So according to the Retro Rewind podcast, apparently we rate Airplane 2, the sequel, a highly disputed nostalgic film. If you've seen it before and you remember liking it, yeah, check it out again. If it hasn't been 20 years, but if you've never seen it before, go watch the first one. I think we'd all agree it's much better. But now that we've read this film, it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
Surely you must be joking.
Calm sat online, awaiting incoming transmissions.
20XX?
Feels good to be back. But we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1982 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew of the Cellcast, Ashley Ruiz, Kennethan, Fabulous Lomax, That's Our Bob. Oh, you're right here. Woohoo! D Tungsten. Oh, you're here too.
That's me.
Mr. Lost, Gerald Hafner, Cool Deluxe, Dustin, He's a Big Deal Warford, Flux, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help keep us flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
This stream, should you choose to accept it, is sponsored by pauljpowers.com.
I guess there was a little Mission Impossible bit in there, huh? Okay.
There was.
Yeah, there was.
That's the connection. Hey, speaking of connections, is there some way people can connect to us and support us without being like our great rad rewinders here who give us money and support? But is there a way to support the show for free?
Yeah, actually, Paul, you probably enjoyed this episode if you made it this far. I'm telling you, good listener. So if you aren't driving, tap the share icon in your podcast player for this episode and send it to a friend saying, I know you like Airplane 2. I don't know why, but I know you like it. So I thought you might like this podcast on it.
Have you seen it? No, never mind.
Exactly. Are you thinking about seeing Airplane 2? Listen to these guys first. See what they think.
This will kill an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. And I'll bet they'll thank you for it.
I'm sure they will.
And speaking of thanking people, we want to give a big Airplane hug because that's a thing.
Sure.
David Bobo Bobke and Drake Tungsten for supporting us with their thoughts about Airplane 2. I'd like to go alphabetical order. We'll start with David because Bobo comes before D.
I like that.
How can people find you online if you want to be found? And is there anything cool you got going on that they should try to stalk you about?
You can try to find me on Twitter, X, whatever the thing's called nowadays, at That's Sour Bobo or That's Sour Bobo, depending on my mood, I change it. So there's that. I'd also like to take this moment to thank several guest stars in the movie that were not named specifically, like George Wendt, who I always enjoy seeing.
Yeah.
Pat Sajak and Yael Mathias, who nobody else remembers, but she was in season 6 of Saturday Night Live, which is not the worst season ever.
Yep.
Feel free to tweet your differing opinions at me. And I'm doing nothing else other than the show and sitting in the archives. So.
Indeed.
Oh, cool.
Indeed.
We appreciate you there.
Yes, very much so.
And D Tungsten, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I sometimes stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/dtungsten.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I'm on Scanline Heroes on Friday nights.
You're on what?
Scanline Heroes.
Okay.
On Friday night. Sometimes I join in there.
Friday nights. Cool.
Nice.
Friday. So.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Bobo, Drake, and my awesome Flying High friend Paul. And all you rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage. We also want to thank Alutrick for enhancing our music. Find him at alutrick.bandcamp.com or youtube.com/@Alutrick. That's spelled ALLOOUTRICK, then the number 8266 for the YouTube. So thank you so much to him.
I think an old episode of the podcast just played in my ears. I don't know
I think that was transmitted from the Thunder Road 1.
Oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you all indeed. And you can find me. I am pauljpowers.com. And guess where you can find me?
pauljpowers.net.
.com.
Oh, it's in your name. You think I'd know that? Okay, my bad.
Don't worry. One of these days, you'll get it, and I'll get the right movie we're covering.
Exactly. And you can find me, Francisco, on our Discord for show announcements, or just to say hi. Join us there at retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord, or keep in the know about the board game I am designing. I just got the second prototype printed, and a lot that's great about it. Some errors I made in it, so I'm bummed about that. But you can stay in the know with all that at junkyardjuggernauts.com.
.net? Oh, yours is .com too.
Yeah, you see, you think I know that about you because that's the way it's for me. Anyway.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
As the airport terminal announcer just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media.
Yeah, not .com like all the others. .media.
Oh, I'm so confused.
Right? But thank you, XO, Confused or Not. And thank you for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for Lost in Space, Joey Tribbiani style, on our next adventure of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to base to await next mission.
I guess it's in God's hands now.
I'm Father O'Flanagan. I'm a man of God. And you must trust me when I say it's very likely that we're all going to die.
Especially because the coffee's gone, and that's just the worst thing in the world.